Hello and welcome to this week's show, where I thought we would take a look at something that's often considered a very basic gag stunt that you see a lot in television and film, when in point of fact it's really very complicated and quite dangerous, and yet it's almost thrown away. It's a stair fall, and I have some experience in stair falls because apart from falling downstairs when I'm drunk, which I had done in the past, you remember from a couple of years ago, I did that and fractured my hip, in point of fact. But the doctor at the time said that if I had been sober, chances are I would have been killed. And that made me think how very interesting the whole concept of stair falls are. They're very exciting to watch on film and television. You don't think about it too much when it happens. And for me, because I had been watching the game with some friends, and the train station was the bar was right next door to the train station, and I had to go up some steps to go over the track and down the other side to get to the platform I was going to catch my train on. Going up, fine. Going across, no problem. Coming down, and it all got very silly, and then I fell down 2 flights because it went down and then turned around and came down again. So it was a second flight on the way down. And I have no recollection of it whatsoever, apart from feeling myself going and arriving at the bottom, and then people coming up to me and saying, "Oh my God, are you okay?" and handing me my phone and handing me my glasses, because they'd all come off and the contents of my pockets were everywhere, and people were handing them back to me. They're also giving me tissues and stuff because I was bleeding. You know, I'd banged various limbs on the way down and was cut, and my hands were cut and all sorts of stuff. So you take that into consideration as something so spontaneous, and then you think to yourself, well, how would you recreate that for the purpose of a film or television sequence? And of course, stunt performers will be aware that it's one of those things that they're going to have to do. But up until fairly recently, there was no training. You couldn't learn how to fall down a flight of stairs. The first time that you would find out about that is when you're stood at the top of the staircase on the set waiting for the director to say action. You'd have had a conversation with the coordinator first, and he would have said, if I were you, I would maybe do it like this or like this. But then the script suggests that the character has to fall down the stairs because they're being pushed down the stairs, therefore you're going forwards, or they are having a conversation with somebody else, therefore they're going backwards, or it's an accident, or they're tripping up, or they're slipping on something, therefore it's this. And the staircases are all different. They're inside a house, which means they're 13 steps and they're carpeted. They're outside, which means they're possibly stone steps, concrete steps, or even metal staircase. They're straight steps or they're curved steps. They're going around a corner. It's sunny, it's raining. There are so many different options available. And it's a very, very complicated thing. And the point of that is that you have to make contact with those steps all the way down to the bottom. It's not really a case of you jumping from here to there. The fact that it's a stair fall means you are falling down the stairs the entire time, contacts the whole time. Often, stunt performers will say that they prefer, if there's a banister there, you can grab a banister and change your position on the way down. A wall running along the outside, or the opposite side of the banister, means that you can use that to push away from or change position. But there are going to be a number of occasions where you will have to, physically make contact with those steps to change position on the way down. And also your landing position will be taken into consideration. How is the character landing at the bottom? Obviously, it's important that you land with your face away from the camera. But if you're part way through the fall and you realize there's the camera position, and you're going to land bump there with your face right in frame, Well, that's a bit tricky. Do you then turn it at the last moment, or you have to try and hide that? Now, of course, with the technology they have, it might not be so bad. But if you remember, there was a fall many years ago in a picture called Death Becomes Her. Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn falling down flights of stairs. Very, very clearly, Robert Zemeckis, was it Bob Zemeckis, the director? Very clearly CGI, early days CGI. And looking now, when you look at it now, you go, oh my God, that looks like it's really computerized. And it was, but it was a brand new way of maybe giving the option and giving the alternatives to doing it for real. There was a large section of that, incidentally, which was indeed done for real. But there are certain moments, where the head's turning all the way around and you could see the creases in the neck because the neck has been turned around. Lots of crazy stuff like that. There are other moments, like a completely different fall is the one in Get Shorty. John Travolta throws the late, great James Gandolfini down a flight of steps because the guy behind him says, oh, he's a stuntman and he's my bodyguard. And Travolta says, a stuntman, really? Boom, throws him down the steps. And the landing at the bottom is him sliding into shot for Travolta to go, hey, he's pretty good for a guy his size. So it's played for laughs. But that initial shot past the camera and into shot and onto the stairs is the stunt performer. And that's the bit they have to do. That's a brutal landing. And costume-wise, again, you take all of these things into consideration. Well, the guy's wearing a suit, or he's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, or he's wearing a jacket. Well, if it's a guy, you've got pads, knee pads, elbow pads. You can wear a back protector if you want to. Making that fall, you're going to get a knock. You're going to take a knock. You're going to take at the bottom, you're going to go, oh, that shoulder's a bit sore after that. I hope the director doesn't want another one, because you may be asked to go again and again and again and again. But you've got a number of pads and layers, and then you have the ladies and the stunt girls traditionally, and you look at the way in which scripts are written these days, and back then even, and it will say scene 217, Belinda falls down the concrete steps of the car park in just a bikini. Oh, God. And they look at it, and you can automatically see the girls going, oh, why? What is the point of this? You get that situation. There's no way of being able to cover up. And only recently are there the equipment and the technology allowing organizations like Stunt Bumpers, for instance, who are a company who provide pads, and they do it in such a way that maybe they can create skin tone pads or something that isn't going to look or show up maybe on screen, but will maybe give the performer, particularly stunt women, because of the situation we've just explained there about limited wardrobe. It is possible for them to do a stair fall and be able to cover their extremities. Obviously, if it's a bikini or if it's a very short skirt, they're going to have a lot of leg on show, and the points of contact will be kneecaps, elbows, things that you're going to, wrists, you're going to contact these on the way down. So they have these little flesh tone pads, and they're maybe this big, and you turn them that way, and they're almost translucent in color, and you can see right through them, but there's a little bit of padding, and you can maybe attach it, stick it to the elbow area. It's just enough to get them from the top flight to the bottom, and they're going to hope that it's good enough that they can do it in one take. Not everything is going to be like that wonderful gag in The Exorcist. The stuntman, of course, Chuck Waters, doubling the priest, Father Karras. And he has, a long cassock on. It's shot at night. It's a lot of steps. And they put little layers of foam on each of the steps, the tiniest thing, just something to get him from the top to the bottom, because he's traveling at speed. So all of these things taken into consideration. And there are now places where you can go to learn. And this is the key thing. It's educational. It's absolutely essential. As I say, in the old days, You're going to fall downstairs. You're going to get hit by a car. There was nowhere for you to go and do that. You had to befriend a stuntman or find somebody who was prepared to give you some of their time. Maybe they would allow you to travel with them. Maybe they would allow you to be part of their team and watch them. And you could learn from them. But now you can go to places. There are clubs and there are organizations that will show you how, teach you basics. If you've never fallen down a flight of stairs before, falling down a flight of stairs is the most awkward thing you've ever done, because everything in your entire being is preventing you from falling over. Your central system, your central core, attached to the messages that it's sending to your brain, is telling you, remain upright, watch the steps as you go to the bottom. One foot after the other, nice and safe, hold onto the wall, hold onto the banister, get to the bottom and walk on. But the situation that you've been put in says that you miss the top step and you fall all the way down to the bottom. I've mentioned his name on a number of occasions in the past because he's a massive part of my life, but stuntman Roy Alon was always trying to find new ways to be able to do old gags. In that respect, I mean being knocked down by a car, I mean doing high falls, horse falls, stair falls. He'd found a very exciting way of... He was excited by it. Nowadays, I don't know whether it still stands the test of time, but certainly back in the early 90s when he was doing episodes of A Touch of Frost, where he was the stunt coordinator and was the main double for David Jason. And he would double some of the characters that was going on. The budgets themselves, although relatively extensive as far as the cast was concerned, the locations, the police involvement, meant that the stunt budget was relatively small, unless, of course, Roy could talk the producers into saying, look, in this situation, you've had this much excitement, action, and it was physical action. Before it was a chase, it was a foot chase, but now the guy's trying to get away in a car. And really the climax to this, because you've got characters arriving from different locations, all arriving at the same spot, it would be fantastic if I could get an opportunity or bring somebody in to turn that car over, because that's what this sequence needs. And he would be able to convince the producers of that, and they would allow him additional funding to say, okay, bring in a stunt driver, bring in a special effects team, work with the guys that we have, and then come up with something, and that's what would happen. Well, he found a way of being able to do that with stair falls as well, whereby the character, in his instance, he's doubling for an old man, and the guy has to walk downstairs. The telephone is ringing, or there's somebody at the front door. I forget what the scenario was, but he's carrying a cup of tea and he's holding on to the banister, and he gets to a certain point, and as he says himself, everything in your entire being says, you know you have to fall, but you're having to take into consideration what you're doing prior to that moment of no return. In his instance, he's holding on to the banister and he's holding a cup of tea. And he can rehearse that to a point and think, right, well, I would do this. But then what he came up with, along with the special effects team, was that there is one step in that staircase which is hinged. And when he gets to a certain point, it lifts. Bing! Oh! And will automatically throw him forwards. And it doesn't matter which foot he has on that step either. So he'd worked it out that regardless of how many steps, it's a house, and therefore it's traditionally 13 steps because they were carpeted. It's a standard number for household steps. Go and count your steps now. I imagine you've got 13. If you're from downstairs to upstairs, traditionally 13 steps. You might have 14 if it's a new build. Yes, 13 or 14 steps, but that's normally the way it is. So instead of him going from the top and thinking, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when I get to number 6, that's the one to go at, that's taken out of his hands. And he says to the special effects guy, when you're ready and I get to that point, I'm not going to count down the way you do it. So he will be in the middle of just walking down. The special effects guy will go, boom, hit the button, bing, the step will go up and down. He does the rest of the fall. It's then filmed in slow-mo, so you get added effect. And I did this for another video previously, but I kind of managed to zoom in to that step, and you can see it going. And I think it's very clever that he's been trying to think outside of the box and say, right, how do we do this, and how can we do it and make it slightly different? So the situations surrounding it allow for a bit of play. You know, you've got play either side. You can do this, you can do that. You still get, the director still says, well, look, I need him to come down here, and I need him to land in this point here, and I need you to have your face away from the screen. Oh, well, he can do that. But it allows a little more, and maybe gives a director a bit more, gives the editor a bit more as well when he's doing that final cut. Is it being covered by one camera? Is there a second camera down at the bottom of the stairs filming up? From the top filming down? Are you being able to get a couple of options? So all of that taken into consideration, I think is very important, and Roy was a great exponent of that. And certainly, you know, I've spoken to a number of stuntmen over the years who have said, look, if you're going to go do a stair fall, go backwards. Go backwards, because, you know, psychologically you can't see what's happening. And you'll be a passenger for, you know, all of the journey on the way down. You know you're going to make contact with a wall here or something there, and it's going to spin you around. But 9 times out of 10, if you get an option to do it, and you do see people doing that from time to time, they get to the top of the stairs and they spin and they go down backwards the first part, which kicks the legs over the top of the head, and then they end up at the bottom. Speed is your friend in a situation like that, because momentum is the thing that takes you from the very top of the stairs to the very bottom, and that will be a factor as well. A director will say, look, you've got to come, it's the full flight of stairs, so you've got to come all the way to the top, bump, and then land here. You can't just go part way and then get lodged halfway up the staircase. It's a case of coming all the way down or not coming down at all. So, you know, whatever the situation is, you have to do that. A lovely story that Greg Powell told me many years ago, and I think it was I think he was dubbed. And again, this was done in different situations. This was for a horror picture. I'm not entirely convinced of the title of the picture. However, the principle is the same. There had been a situation where, and I believe it was Lee Remick, who was the actress, and her character, a stunt double, had fallen down a flight of stairs. And the director had then said, we need sound of the stair fall that we can put over the top, because we don't really have that. We didn't catch a great deal of the sound, so we'd like to recreate that. And Greg was approached and asked if he would do that. And he said, sure, I'll do that, it's no problem. So the coordinator had said, okay, Greg, up you go. And he's on the top of the staircase there. I said, right, and action, away you go. And Greg came down like a ton of bricks and landed at the bottom. And of course, there was unnecessary additional sound because he hadn't emptied his pockets first. And in his pockets was a great deal of loose change, which of course Lee Remick probably didn't have in her outfit when she fell down the stairs. And so he had to go and do it again. But little things like that, you know, they probably don't do that these days, or for sound purposes. Maybe they do, you know. But there's so much technology available these days that maybe you can recreate it in post without having to do it for the purpose. I get the Foley artists will be very excited at the whole concept of creating all of these wonderful sound effects for the purpose of that. But I wanted to explain that to you, and I say maybe next time when you look at a stair fall, and you see the type of falls that are being performed on screen, and you realise that they're not, you know, just run-of-the-mill simple stuff. There's a great deal that goes into it. And I was one of those individuals who wasn't aware that there wasn't a situation whereby you could go to somebody back in the old days and go, how the hell do I fall down a flight of stairs? Because 9 times out of 10, what somebody would have said was, well, you'll find out in a minute when you go and do it. You know, they weren't going to give you any advice, because if they gave you advice, you might then get a job that they were up for later on down the line. Oh, well, I told this guy how to do it. Oh, well, that's your trouble. You shouldn't have told him how, because all of a sudden you've got it. That was the 70s for you. And it took a long time for those sort of thoughts and outlooks on life to maybe change. Nowadays, there are situations where there are groups, there are individuals who go, look, there's a new breed on the streets and we need to show them how. So we take these individuals, we put them together, we put a course together, we develop skills that they will need. Falling down stairs, fabulous. Everybody needs to know that. Not necessarily from this particular film, but it's something that you wouldn't normally do. Falls, yeah, they do. There's a bunch of individuals that will do high fall classes and will show you how, body positioning while you're in the air, how to land appropriately from different heights, because a fall from 30 feet is very different to a fall from 60 feet. The body positioning is such that you need to adjust it accordingly in flight so that when you land, you are in the right position, correct position for dispersing the weight as you hit the box rig or bag. Horses, there's lots of folk that have courses where you can go and do that. You can go and learn your basic riding skills or your trick riding skills or something that will assist you. But there are certain bits and pieces that, simple falls, referred to as simple falls, but falls, pratfalls, bits and pieces, stuff that will make you more agile or more available or give you more of an edge when it comes to somebody saying, I've got a stair fall and I thought maybe you might like to do it. Oh, that'd be brilliant. Yeah, I've been doing some work on that, so I'd like to put that to the test if that's okay. Or super, well that's fantastic. If you've been doing it already, well, come along, and then you get a chance to prove how that training has worked, has benefited you simply by applying it to the situation that you're put in front of, the scene that you're required to do when you're on the set. But it's not something that you can just go, well, it's a stair fall, it'll be fine. No, it's very serious. You've got a serious possibility that you could injure yourself in life-changing ways. And again, that phrase is not used lightly. You've seen the type of situations that people put themselves in. You've also seen the type of injuries that happen from very simple, everyday situations. Falling downstairs is one that happens a great deal. You don't have to be old to have lost your balance and fall down a flight of stairs. You can be any age, and you could end up with a life-changing injury, and that has to be taken into consideration. On the strength of that, if you are going to do it for real, you have to know how to get from top to bottom in a safe but exciting manner that works for you as an individual, the coordinator, the director, and the overall look of that scene. I'm not intending for you to now rush off and go and fall down a flight of stairs, but if it's something you wish to explore, then find out. There are organizations, probably in your city, certainly in your county, that will involve being, with additional agility. And maybe there are individuals you can talk to from the stunt register. If anybody's interested and would like to find out more about that, well, drop me a line, put some notes in the video here, the comments at the bottom, and I'll try and steer those comments in the right place. And maybe we can find somewhere for you to go, and be in a situation where, as part of your training, if that's something that you are doing, we can put you in touch with somebody who can maybe give you a few pointers as to what to expect and how to create a stair fall should you come up with that situation later on in your development and training for stunt work. Hopefully that's been of some use to you. Thank you very much indeed for watching. As always, catch up on some of the other videos that I've done over the last 12 months or so. There's a bunch out there. I hope you're catching up with your James Bond films as well. If you haven't caught any of them at the cinema, do it. What ITV are very confusing. They're showing, if you're in England, ITV, which is our independent channel, is currently showing some of the James Bond films on the same week that they are coming out at the cinema. if you're a Bond fan like I am, don't wait for the ones to show on the TV. Go and see them at the big screen. They're big screen movies. If you haven't seen them, you should, certainly. I urge you to do that. I imagine that when this video comes out, it'll probably be Tomorrow Never Dies, maybe, or World Is Not Enough, something like that. If you are young enough and haven't seen the Pierces on the big screen, go and do it. They are a joy. And we will catch up with you all again next week for more of the same. Until then, bye for now.